I'm the head of ecosystem initiatives at VentureWay. In the last couple of videos, we've talked about startup stages and their corresponding investment stages or funding rounds. In this video, I'm going to quickly run you through what the fundraising process entails for a startup. Let me start by defining startup capital for you. Startup capital refers to the money raised by a new company in order to meet its initial costs. Entrepreneurs who want to raise startup capital have to create a solid business plan or build a prototype in order to sell their idea to investors. The entrepreneur first needs to define the startup stage and valuation. After this, the entrepreneur needs to think about the quantum of funds required, the activities towards which these funds will be put, and the timeline for which these funds will help them stay afloat. The timeline is usually called a runway. Most startups raise funds for a 12 to 18-month runway, while some might raise for a 6-month runway or a runway longer than 24 months. All this depends on the nature, stage, and context of the startup. The fundraising process for startups takes meticulous research and planning. Once funding goals and objectives are in place, the entrepreneur needs to work on demonstrating the startup's unique value proposition, traction achieved, and how the startup is poised to generate a positive return on investment. Typically, funding goals and objectives are documented within a business plan and later in the investor pitch deck. These tools serve as the roadmap for scaling fast, staying on track, and achieving startup funding goals and objectives. Building an accurate budget is of utmost importance. The startup must consider all possible expenses from HR, legal, marketing, R&D to equipment, technology, etc. After budgeting and fine-tuning the pitch, the startup must look for qualified investors. When looking for investors, it is important to consider their investment theses. We will be breaking down the various elements of an investment thesis in a subsequent video in this series. Finding the right investors can go miles in cementing the foundations of your company. When reaching out to investors, referrals go a long way in lending legitimacy and helping earn trust. Thus, it is important to be well networked as an entrepreneur and to make use of these networks in the fundraising process. Lastly, make sure to get legal advice before finalizing any deals. Clarify investment legalities with your attorney prior to initiating your fundraising process, and you will be good to go.